Yes, and my name is Dr. Igor Gladkov. Together with my colleague, Ms. Celisa Day, we will hold the webinars today. Now we will show you our agenda. And first of all, just just several words about our UTech chamber. And for those who are participating in our events for the first time, I would underline that UTech, European Technology Chamber, was created within the framework of the European Union under the SDG programs and organizes its work on the exchange of information, promotion, and commercialization of advanced technologies with the involvement of leading experts in various sectors of the economy. In our case today, with special attention on climate change and renewable energy. We are organized, UTech Chamber is a non-profit organization, is organized in alliances. As you see here, we have regional, tech and impact alliances. Now we are in climate action alliance. So alliance, it's like a commission with interested people, with interested experts on this topic. And in our case, it's climate action. We are organizing 200 webinars. We have more than 50,000 registrations a year, and we have also very big events, expos, all digital events. But next year we organize also physical events in European capitals. And here on this slide you can see our three main fields of activity. It's access to speakers and panelists. I have told about exchange of experts and exchange of knowledge. The second one is a big, huge, high-level networking that we are making on our ultra-modern digital platform. And the second is funding. I have mentioned European Commission, and we are cooperating. We are providing funding. We are working in funding programs, and we can organize participation of our in our different funding programs. Is now our ecosystem, our insights programs, our very huge and number of digital and not only digital tools, like we are, for example, we are writing and providing position papers for European Commission with recommendations for the industry. We have newsletters, we have EU tenders, we have publications, digitals and printed publications, everything, and many other things. To know more about our tools, about our cooperation, and the main thing about business opportunities that you will get with us, please contact me or my colleagues Marcus Wiemann and Federico González de Aledo. And now I will turn the floor to my colleague, Celisa. You're welcome. Please introduce our speakers today, and then we will listening to, as usual, very impactful presentations. Thank you in advance. I wish you impactful discussion, and please don't hesitate to write your questions for discussion in the public chat. It's very important. I will read it out, or Celisa will read it out, and we will discuss all the questions you write. Thank you very much. Celisa?
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Celisa. I'm a new coordinator with UTech. I work with the Climate Action Alliance and the SDG Alliance. I'm going to take presenter since I lost the slides there. There we go. If everyone can see the presentation. If you can't see the presentation, there should be a small icon in the bottom right of your screen that next to the little hand that looks like a square presentation. You can click on that. You should be able to see the slides as well. I saw some of you had questions about getting this access to the slides afterwards. I'll see what I can do about that. For speakers today, we have Christian Horn. He's a general manager with Replace Plastics, which I got to talk to him about earlier today, and he's doing some really wonderful things, and I hope he gets to tell you more about that. We had two other speakers who may or may not still be able to make it. They've been having some trouble with Kimna George, with a CEO with Clim Finance Consulting, Ali Lakat, a CEO with Lakat Group, and we do have Clement Efenu with us today. He's a master's student at the University of Malta. And as Igor said, if you guys have questions, please send them in the public chat, and we will have them asked during the question and answer mode. Igor, you can take presenter mode again.
Yes, thank you very much. Ms. Hinma George is here, but now we will invite our distinguished Mr. Horn for the first presentation. I have given you presenters, Mr. Horn.
Yes, good morning to all. I'm sorry, I need to...
No problem, please do it.
Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Sorry about that.
So, dear participants, just one more time, very important, and we would be very thankful if you write in the public chat your questions for our today's speakers or for us, and we will discuss it. Except of all,
yes. Here.
Sorry?
Here we go. I'm sorry. Try it again. No.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but it does not work.
Just a second. Just one more time. Now I have given you presenters rights. Do you see this icon below?
Yes. Yes.
Please click on it to share the screen.
Doesn't work. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There is a code there.
Okay. Then it doesn't work, yes?
Just 1 second.
Yeah, it's not urgent. The ticket is for March. So that's open. I sent him the message. Maybe he's replying very soon.
Sorry, just 1 second. Sorry, I have a problem there. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. I can tell you my story and what we do at Replace.
Maybe you start. You start.
You don't mind.
Thank you.
The storytelling of our company. So my name is Christian Horn, and I'm the co-founder of Replace in France. How did this company? How was this company created? It was simply a LinkedIn meeting with someone who left the company in the plastic cosmetic tube industry 3 or 5 years ago. We met on LinkedIn, and Laurent, his name is Laurent Villemain, was the COO of Albea, which is the biggest and largest company producing tubes. Tubes like these ones are made of webs which have barriers. Okay, so basically in this toothpaste tube, you have a barrier, either EVOH, which is a chemical, or you have an aluminium barrier. EVOH barrier films are easy to recycle, but aluminium-based films like crisp, foils, etc., are very hard to recycle. So the question was, what can we do with those residual waste streams, which are now burned or landfilled? And Laurent said to me, Christian, there's no way we can do something with this. And I said, no, that's not true. I say, I want to make something like this with those products. See, this is a stick that's being used in the wine industry in France. And he said, but okay, then how do you want to do that? We need to build a new machine. We need to build a new machine. We need to find a partner to do that. And I want to go from small scale producers of plastic lumber to an industrial way of doing it, okay, which with financials that are correct, where you can make money, where everyone can make some kind of revenue, okay. So basically we said, okay, let's sit down, and we joined with a partner in Switzerland. The company is called ESA, and we sat around the table and we said, how are we going to make it? 15 engineers sat around the table and they said, okay, we're going to tackle this problem. The result is a machine that is now running in France, in the northeast of France. The second machine is now being delivered. We have projects all over the place in Europe. We have projects in the United States, one in Tunisia, one in Cameroon, one in Belgium, 2 in Germany. The thing is really spreading out at a very high pace. And how does it work? In fact, we are not separating, our DNA is not to separate plastics. So most people, when they make granules, they want to have clean streams, okay? They need to wash the plastic, they need to dry the plastic, which is not very cost effective. They need to make a granule out of the plastic, meaning to heat the plastic and cool it down. So, I mean, from a climate point of view, from a CO2 emissions point of view, it's a real catastrophe, okay? We don't do that. We go from, we are standing to our core idea, which is don't separate. Mix things together. Take this tube, take this foil, and mix them together without washing, without regranulation, without drying, and only one extrusion, okay? So basically,
Yes.
Christian, sorry, we don't hear you anymore. Please check your microphone.
okay. Do you hear me now?
Yes, it does work. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you hear what I said earlier? Yes, you did. Okay, so basically what do? We have a waste to product process where we cut all the costly process steps that are in fact costing you energy, that are costing you transport, that are costing you a lot of money, and that are not effective as to CO2 emissions. So all these things that you see here, okay, are just mixed together, extruded, and we get this kind of product, okay? So the market we are addressing is the agricultural and building market. You need billions of posts to repair, fences, to plant next to trees, to fruit trees, to vines when you're planting vines. And in the building industry, the market is huge. So people saying we can't do anything with the residual waste are wrong. Our problem now today is not, do we have the mine? The mine is huge. Do we have a market? We have a huge market. Our problem today is how are we going to produce enough machines? So we levied 4 million euros, for our first round of financing, and we are now spreading the idea and the project. So what we're looking for is for people who are willing to go into this market together with us. We are not selling machines. We are not sellers of machines. We do accompany investors. We take a share of the capital, or we give licenses, and we are there with them to help them, reach their goals. So, for instance, in Africa, we have projects where we want to make big boards, which are nestable one into each other, to make homes. I mean, plastics everywhere in Africa. There is no solution. In France, in Europe, we're making, for the moment, we're making 5 million of these stakes per year with one machine, and that's for the vinyl industry. In the United States, we want to make boards for pallets. But when you're making pallets, you need so many boards. So our idea of industrializing the process of plastic lumber making was the good one. And we are so good that today, our life cycle analysis, and I will now end my presentation. Our life cycle analysis compared for this product, which is the vineyard steak, is 5 times less than the original wood steak, which came from Hungary. Okay, with 1,600 kilometers of transport, we are 5 times less impacted because we're producing with local northeast waste coming from northeast of France, products that are being used in the Champagne region. And that's our idea. We don't want the waste come to us. We want to go and fetch the waste and install machines where the waste is being generated. That's our MBA. If you have questions, you can have a look at our website. It's www.replace-plastics.com, or maybe contact me via Silisa or Igor. They've got all my data. We are open to further innovation. We're open to helping people out with their problems. So you're welcome to contact. Thank you very much.
Christian, thank you very much. I have already some questions to your project and to your products, but we will discuss it after that. I see Miss Hinma George. Hinma, can you hear us? Dear Hinma? Not yet. Then Clement.
Yes, please. I can hear you, Doctor.
Yes, Clement, please introduce yourself, and we will be glad to hear your opinion about today's topic.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you for the opportunity to be a panelist. And good morning to everyone. Quite a wonderful presentation by Dr. Horn. So, first and foremost, I want to commend your technique. You understand, that is a waste to product process. In the sense that, today we are talking about carbon tax and how we can benefit from policies or regulations. So that alone makes your system stand out. Because of course, the focus of carbon tax is to reduce emission, And already I could see by your process that a lot of emission has been cut. This is quite unlike the regular, recycling system. Like what we have here in my country, Nigeria, the regular one still creates lots of emission. The process of trying to recycle still generates lots of emission. And quite unfortunately, in this part of the world, issues concerning carbon tax, is not on the front burner of even the government, because the awareness, among the populace and even, corporate entities that are the major culprits when it comes to generation of creating emission are not really talking about it. So if we can create a synergy, the organization and a couple of other individuals in this part of the world, I'm sure that we will be able to make a lot of progress with because I know that the end goal of this is to reduce carbon emission. So if we can work together, because I see that is where this is leading to. And I heard that you have a project in Cameroon, which is not far from, is a neighboring nation. Nigeria presents a very big market. Nigeria presents large opportunity that we can tap into. using this system, because it is practically not existing in this part of the world. So I want to commend you for this already. And then you mentioned industries where your focus is, which is agriculture and then building, and which is a very thriving one. Nigeria has uh, huge potentials when it comes to agriculture, though largely we still have shortage of the technical know-how, modern agricultural methods or skills that's required to drive food production, and then of course enhance food security that is that is compliant with our objective this morning. So we will make a huge progress if this is brought into this part of the world. And then of course the building industry also is very huge. That specific, these two sectors already is a sector, or are sectors that the government of the day, have policies and then programs to promote. But I know that this is still so much, I mean, largely bereft of the modern the modern touch that will help the government to achieve their goals and their aims, and by extension, the generality of the populace. So I will summarize by saying that governments and individuals should key into these kinds of projects, these kinds of systems or strategies, because policies that is not workable, as in this case, policy that you cannot really bring into effectuation, for me, doesn't make any sense. So this is a very good one, and then we will continue our discussion as I continue to learn more about this strategy that you're presenting. So for now, I will stop here. Thank you very much for the audience.
Thank you very much, Clement. I don't know, it was very, very good opinion. I think Miss Kinma is here. Kinma
Yes,
isn't
I'm
here. Ah, very
Can you
good,
hear me?
Kinma. So,
Sorry, I was trying
yes,
to unmute
yes.
my microphone.
Okay, thank you for coming. We are listening to you. Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Chinma George. I'm the CEO of Climate Finance Consulting, and what we do is we try to connect projects to climate finance. So I wanted to ask, do you want me to comment on Mr. Christian Horn's presentation? I beg to differ from a few things Clement said, because I'm also from Nigeria. Okay, so let me go ahead. So first of all, replaced plastics. What is your offer? You said you recycle plastics, which I'm sorry, I didn't really see the what you were showing us, the plastics you were showing us, if that was plastics or if that was what's it called? A pack for what's that thing called again? Potato chips. And you mentioned aluminium. I don't understand. If you can shed more light on that so we know how that works. Yeah, I know that we have a lot of plastic waste in Nigeria, and we're looking at sustainable solutions to curb this waste, because this also adds to flooding, and this is because we have a waste management problem in major cities like Lagos. So this also blocks the drains. And yes, it would be good to get more light on your initiative in order to know if it's the best fit for Nigeria, because Nigeria is a big economy. And talking about climate finance, carbon tax, and beyond, how to benefit from policies and regulations, I'd like to first start by saying Africa has contributed less than 3 to 4% of global emissions. So we are on the receiving end of the impact of climate change. One, because we're still developing. Two, we don't have the adaptive abilities and capacity to cope with the different impacts and onslaught of climate change affecting us. And three, looking at the UN Convention on Climate Change and looking at the common but differentiated responsibilities, meaning that developed countries that have contributed the most to climate change and to emissions are indebted to Africa, and because of climate justice and equity, to support African countries with climate finance. This goal that developed countries have not met. Looking at the Kyoto Protocol that looks at carbon, that looked at the emission trading and the clean development mechanisms, and looking at the Paris Agreement that brings everybody on a level playing field, that everybody should reduce their emissions. I believe there is a bit of, and there's a lot of ambiguity, there's a lot of unfairness, there's a lot of equity issues. Africa hasn't contributed anything to emissions. In fact, if we're looking at this, looking at the NDCs, we're saying we're tying Africa's future for development because we still have to develop. And if we're looking at carbon trading, if we're looking at storing our forests, how are we going to develop? When developed countries that have the ability to transition to cleaner technologies, to green energy, haven't transitioned. Why should Africa stand up and transition? Now we're facing major issues such as loss and damage. Where is all the financing for it? So first of all, there's a lot of unfairness. And should we be looking at carbon tax? Should we be looking at emission trading in Africa, where we've contributed nothing to the emissions? I think there's a lot of unfairness. Even looking at the technologies, these technologies are owned by European countries. What is the issue? What's technology transfer? And even if you look at the financing, finance goes for projects. So most of these technologies are still owned by developed countries. And so how do we strike a balance? Because as we get ready for COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, even if it's supposed to be the COP on the continent, and after 6 years, I think, the continent hosting another COP, this is supposed to be the implementation COP. What are our thoughts? What is the way forward for us as Africa? Looking at Glasgow, having finalized the climate rule book, which looks at carbon trading and Article 6. What should we be looking at? How can we ensure that African voices are heard? Because I beg to differ. I'm sorry, I'm kind of an activist, and I see that there is not a lot of, we just hear of technologies every day. There's the carbon capture and storage, there's the all sorts of technologies every day. How does that benefit us in Africa? Because now look at electric vehicles. Most of the products for these things are gotten from Africa. How are these mined? So what do we stand to gain? How do we benefit from these policies, regulations of the UN, of the global economy? We are not on the benefiting end of all these policies. We are victims of this issue. And what is the way forward? Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Dear Hima, very good that you came and you told us your opinion, your expert opinion. We are very glad that our webinars, our discussions are very international, but the subject climate change is really very, very international one. And that's why it's very, very important that people from all the continents, from all over the world participate in our discussions. After that, all the themes, all the topics we work over here in our discussions will be part of our position papers for European Commission. Climate change belongs to the great problems now of the world. We have Mr. Taya Ayakunle, our colleague also from Africa. Tayo, I know you would like to say several words on this topic. Thank you in advance.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gladkov. Thank you, Clement. Thank you, Ms. Chinma, and more thanks to Mr. Christian Horn. Thank you for your presentation. I've been listening carefully, and I quite agree with Clement and also Mrs. Jima in their own perspective. But I see differently. So somehow, yeah, it's my opinion. I see a lot of opportunity in this project. Talking about the material involved, the foil and plastic that you see mainly on the dumps, and without potential for recycling. So this is a very, very different kind of recycling for a specified peculiar kind of product that you don't usually see people recycle. And I think there's a huge potential. Nigeria is 200 million people. Population of Nigeria is 200 million people, and I can tell you we've got tons and tons of this material everywhere. And most of them goes to the dump yard, and without with very little interest for recycling. And with this project coming into Africa, if it can stay in Cameroon, I think Nigeria is the real deal. Nigeria is where the market is, and we'll be expecting to see things like this in Nigeria. I will be expecting to see how we can come in. And then if Mr. Christian Noor can show more light, or let us see the kind of material that has been produced. We really need to see that, because that is what I could not see. I tried, but there's a lot of flaw in this presentation, this camera presentation. So we really need to see that. Unfortunately, the presentation isn't working. But the products are said to be relevant in the area of our building, etc., and agriculture. But let's take building, for example. Nigeria do a lot of importing with building materials, and if it's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this product is some kind of cast into kind of mold into that you cast into some forms like poles and pillar, etc., that can be used in place of wood in building materials. Look, we do a lot of importing in building, and the government is trying to see how we could cut down on importation. And if we can have that kind of material, that kind of machine, that kind of project running in Nigeria that could produce substitutes, that would cut down on import, it's going to be a big deal in Nigeria, especially in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Kano, those very, very urban regions in Nigeria. My question for Mr. Christian is, what are the requirements? If you're looking for partners, if you're looking for people to collaborate with, what are your expectations? What are the requirements? What qualifies your potential partners and would-be stakeholders in your project? We would like to know that. And then please, once again, the products, we need to see those products, if there are different kind of molds and they are used, the exact use of those products in building, in projects, and that we can start thinking about how to market it. There's a huge potential here in Nigeria for this project, and I believe it's going to be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tayo. So I know there are other questions to Mr. Horn and to other panelists and speakers. Mr. Horn?
Yes.
The last question.
Yes, I just want to be extremely quick on the questions because there are many. What are the eligible plastics? Very easy to remember. All packaging, meaning from food to cosmetics to shampoo to water containers to whatever is packaging would fit our machine, into a machine. That's first thing. The thing we don't want, because there is a market for that, is PET bottles, because PET does not melt at the same temperature than the usual PP, PE plastics. We don't take PVC because this is provoking chloride acids in the extruders. But basically, packaging is not made except for PET bottles, water bottles or Coca-Cola bottles. Packaging is mainly made of PE, PEPA, which is a polyamide, a nylon, and polypropylene. Okay, those plastics, those packagings are mostly barrier foils because you don't want oxygen to enter the packaging, otherwise the product is fouling. I didn't talk about the intrinsic qualities of the product that we make. So if we make boards, planks, posts, pillars, whatever, the intrinsic quality of that is that first, it does never rot. So anywhere where you can use a wooden plank or a wooden post today, where you will put it in the ground, where you have moisture, after five years, you have a rotting problem. Okay, with full plain plastic posts, you never have that. Second intrinsic, very important quality is that the post, when it's at its end of life, is fully recyclable in an endless circular loop. Okay, you grind it, you put it back into the machine, you make a new post. What I wanted to say as well is the project that we carry with Replace is not only an industrial project. It is an industrial project, but not only. It's also it also has a social dimension, because an empty stomach has no ears. So what we think is that our business model is such that we can generate revenues for a lot of people within the entire supply chain. So if you have small families or mothers who need to feed their children, they collect the plastic and bring it or clean it, separate it a bit, whatever, and they bring it to the different plants. They get some money for that. Okay. Then the generation of the product should be such that the part of the profit could go back into expanding the business. Okay? We're not just making money. We try to put a little help into the problem that we have. The plastic problem is a huge problem because it's either burned, it's either landfilled, or it's going into the sea, and that's a big problem. That's a huge problem. There are many markets for this, and as you stated, Tayo, many markets. What we need is partners and governments and finance, because we are a startup. We've started 3 or 4 years ago. We need funding for this, but the funding is good because why is it good? Because the product that you're making is a profitable product. So once you've started the business and the machine, but it's feeding itself. It is auto-sufficient. Okay, in any country of the world. For instance, I will finish. Last week I was in Tunisia at a forum for France and Africa transition forum in Tunis. I met some people from the Ivory Coast, and these people say, we have a problem with our cocoa and coffee pallets because we're cutting very valuable trees to make pallets, and our clients in Europe and the United States, hey, listen guys, stop this. This is nonsense. We have to find a solution. So we're thinking of how can we make pallets that would enter a circular loop in Europe, in the United States, in Russia, anywhere, in Saudi Arabia, a circular loop where they could be reused or recycled with our machines. So we try to close the loop on a worldwide scale, but we need loads of money. We need private investors, we need government investors, we need a lot of goodwill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian. Dear Hinma, can you hear us? There are some questions for you, Hinma.
Chinma, yes, I can hear you.
Chinma, please, you look at these questions, or we should read it aloud. Questions
Okay,
for you.
so I was just trying to reply Alexandra who said, what exactly do I mean by develop? Clearly, we should not want to go the same route as countries who polluted their way to wealth. Literally speaking, Africa needs to develop. Like my colleagues Tayo and Clement have already said, different industries, our industries are not developed. We still have energy access troubles. There is no access to electricity, still a major issue. Good health care, education, all such things. We don't have all such things in Africa. So we need to develop literally. What development means literally, we need to develop. And yes, we know we should not go the same route as countries who polluted. And that's why we're trying to hold developed countries accountable. They are not meeting their targets. They have the finance to transition, and they have refused to meet their targets because of profit. And now we have the Ukraine crisis, and you have the same Europe refusing. Okay, so first of all, there's a divestment from fossil fuels. The whole development scene is moving away from investing in fossil fuels to cleaner technologies. But now with the Ukraine crisis, you see the EU still coming to Nigeria to look for gas. So there is a lot of imbalance here, and that's what I mean. We know that we should, because we're aware of the impact of what other countries have done, we know that we should develop in cleaner ways, but who are we supposed, there is no example to follow. So we're in a dilemma because we have to eat, we have to survive, and we cannot continue surviving on foreign aid. And there's another question.
There is another question from Dr. Rohan Chambra from India. I am a farmer in India. I grow plants. Will it be given carbon credits or any sort of benefit for sequestering carbon from air after carbon tax incorporation on a global scale? Can you comment it, Inma?
Growing of plants is so first of all, there's a market, there's an emission trading market, and in order to get credits, you have to be able to ascertain the amount of greenhouse gases you have captured, otherwise would have been flared that you have sequestered. So there's a process. You have to register. You probably have to get partners. And yeah, there are different products. There's the Red Plus, reducing emission from forest degradation and deforestation. There's the Clean Development Mechanism. There's the emission trading scheme. So you probably have to look for partners or look for, you need to tap into the market. So there's a process to assess carbon credits. So you have to follow that.
Yes, Chinma, and another colleague is writing in the chat. Please give some new ideas for the third world countries, developing countries, that reduces carbon emissions. Maybe it's a common question, a general question for discussion, and I would like to ask all our participants to take part in it. Chinma, what ideas, new ideas for the third world countries for reducing carbon emissions we can put on the table now, in your opinion?
So we can look at renewable energy. Instead of electricity through fossil fuels, generating electricity through gas or fossil fuels, you can look at cleaner forms such as renewable energy solutions. Also, climate smart agriculture. Also, in the building space, like all my other colleagues have mentioned, there are now cleaner ways to build. There are edge pillars by the IFC for more sustainable and energy efficient means of building. So those are some sections.
Yeah, yes, Chinma, thank you very much. Christian, are you agree with Chinma? Christian?
Yes. Well, you know, the challenges that the humanity faces right now are many. how do you cope with all the problems? My personal position is I took up the challenge of tackling residual unrecyclable waste. As to energy, as to what should be done, you know, it's always a question of life cycle analysis and carbon impact. And when you're looking at windmills, are they less impacting in their production than fossil fuels? I don't really know.